I am well, Doc, and I hope you are too.
I'm also doing very well. And before we delve into the elections, maybe I may not speak to you again before the Christmas,
okay,
which looks to be a very dry one by every indication because of the monumental suffering that the Akufo-Addo Boamah NPP administration has imposed on Ghanaians. Be that as it may, we know that next year is 2024, and it's a year for change, a year for massive change, a change that will address the sufferings of Ghanaians, a change that will stop the dissipating of the resources of the state, a change that will address the corruption, the wanton corruption that we are seeing all over the place. So I urge Ghanaians not to lose hope, but look forward to 2024 with a changed mindset so that we can vote massively for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama on December 7, 2024 for a one-touch victory to begin his agenda to build the Ghana we all want, to ensure that the 24-hour economy works for everyone so that the youth who are looking for well-paying jobs will have adequate jobs.
I guess we can have an extensive conversation on that, but there are those who suggest that would have, when the LDC does win the election in 2024, we'll still have maybe 2 or more years of dry Christmas, because it will take some time for whatever the situation is now to be fixed. What do you say?
That is not wholly the case, because you are looking at the relative situation. You are looking at a situation now where there is complete hopelessness. You are looking at a situation now where the resources of the state, like the lithium that has just been found, green mineral, is being given away just because government is refusing to think creatively. A John Mahama-led administration, NDC administration, will think creatively and ensure that 2025 Christmas is obviously going to be better than the worst Christmas that Ghanaians have ever had. That is going to be what a 2024 is presented. And this is because of the careful planning that has gone on behind the scenes. As you know, when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama met the CEOs, he outlined concrete steps that he was going to put in place to ensure that Ghana is industrialized and in an aggressive measure, and not just growing the economy, but also ensuring inclusivity. It is not just family and people who are close to the government who must benefit when the economy is growing, as we have seen under the NPP administration. And that is why President Mahama has indicated that alongside all the other plans, the 24-hour economy is going to be a key anchor to ensure that we have a growing economy that is growing for everyone. You will need drivers doing more hours and new people also entering into the profession, because a driver cannot be driving for 24 hours. That is certainly not possible. When that 24-hour economy is working and working for everyone, people will consume food. What that means is that food vendors will also have to be running shifts. Where will the food come from? The food will be coming from the farms. The farms are mostly in the rural areas. What it means is that the 24-hour economy is not just going to be an urban situation, but it will also drift to the rural areas, because that is where the bulk of the food is also going to come from. And what has he also said? That look, there are incentives that can be given. We all know that power consumption in the night can be tariffed in a manner that will be lower than power consumption during the day. So as part of the incentives to the companies that will be stretching their operations into the night, he has also indicated that the policy of time of use tariff system will also be put in place. Labor laws, of course, will also be looked at so that workers are not made to overstretch themselves. Tax incentives as well. And so 2024 is a year for change. Let's all be of good cheer because change is coming. And His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has promised to build the Ghana we all want. And that is a message that he has taken on his Building the Ghana tour. And I believe and hope that we will all begin looking for our voter ID cards and ensure that we place them safely so that on December 7, it will not be difficult to locate them. The MPP has done enough damage to the country Ghana, our dear country Ghana. The MPP has damaged it and it must be rescued. And that rescue, you need an experienced person. If you don't find an experienced person who is visionary, that is when you can be talking about 2025 will also be the same as 2024. No, that one will be when Boamah is in charge. But when it is John Dramani Mahama, the one who has done it before, the one who built all the massive infrastructure, the Rich Hospital, the University of Ghana Medical Center, the Bank Hospital, roads, interchanges, several of them. You go to Upper West, the regional hospital. You go to Upper East, the regional hospital. Several of them across the country. The Eastern Corridor Fiber, which runs all the way from Ho to Boko through Napanduri, the Gambaga escarpment, with a link from Yindi to Tamale. And you can imagine the ICT jobs that if the Akufo-Addo administration had managed the Eastern Corridor Fiber well, we would have been generating along the 120 communities that span the entire Eastern Corridor Fiber. Unfortunately, they have no clue. John Dramani Mahama, the experienced leader who built the Accra Digital Center, which was programmed to have been employing 10,000 people by now, working 24/7. And this is what should tell you that the 24-hour economy is not a new thing. We had envisaged it. It was in the 40-year development plan and also even in the 2020 manifesto. And the Accra Digital Center was also supposed to be running 24/7, employing 10,000 people. Unfortunately, it is being underutilized. This is why we need a John Dramani Mahama, a man with experience, a man who has done it before, a man who will address the putrefaction that we have seen in our nation as we speak today. And that is why I'm not surprised. Even with district assembly elections, as much as the processes are not partisan, people are sending us messages about how NDC people are winning massively in the contest that took place yesterday.
And I'll come to that. But, the track record of former President Mahama in rolling up his sleeves and getting his appointees to work to solve problems is not in doubt. But it's always said that the pudding is in the eating. And in order for us to prepare that pudding, you would have to win the 2024 elections. Then let's come to the local government elections now. This may be the biggest elections that the EC will organize ahead of the 2024 elections. So perhaps a test. What are impressions from what happened yesterday?
Terrible. One word.
Terrible.
Terrible. Terrible. The EC's performance has been terrible. And the EC should have known this. The EC should have anticipated this. Because what are the issues? Printing. We don't print on the day of the election. So, how come the EC did not detect that there were issues with printing? There were even black and white photos. Retrogressing into the days of black and white photos. In terms of the number of ballot papers, some polling centers recorded shortages, and the EC's response was that they should move some of the ballot from other centers that are not recording shortages to go and augment those who are recording shortages. Can you imagine if this is to happen on December 7, 2024? Again, can you imagine the challenge that it poses to polling agents when they have to be working the arithmetic of how many ballot booklets came, how many of the ballot papers were in there, and then you are there, and let's say around 1 p.m., some of the ballot booklets are taken away, and you have to recalculate and all those things. But that is also the reason we at the NDC Election Directorate, together with the Functional Executive Committee, we are working on ensuring that we put in place competent, committed, and loyal directors and deputy directors in the various regional and constituency directorates, so that we will get competent, committed, and loyal polling agents. Because there's no indication that 2024 is going to be smooth. We are too close to 2024 elections, and if these elementary mistakes are being made, we will continue to talk about them, but we will also act strategically to ensure that even when they are repeated, we will be able to outsmart them. That is why over the weekend, in 12 regions out of the 16 regions, we made over 700 people, specifically 757 people, write exams, tests. They were marked, and based on their performances, some progressed to the interview stage, others were disqualified. They were interviewed, and some appointed as regional directors of elections, regional deputy directors of elections, and constituency directors and deputy directors of elections. The process will continue in the 4 outstanding regions. We are determined to ensure that we put very competent, committed, and loyal people in place. We are not supposed to be discussing the details of all these things, but I give you this to let you know that much as you can be complaining, much as you can even go on demonstration, much as you can even go on hunger strike, if you don't prepare your house, if you don't put your house in order, and they mess up terribly like they did yesterday, your people will be ill-prepared to safeguard. And if your people are ill-prepared, the question is, after they have messed you up, after they have cheated, where do you go to? Do you go to the courts? Are you sure the courts will give you the verdict that you'll be looking for? And so they are preparing for them. So the terrible, I have addressed the aspect of printing. Now let me also come to late arrival of ballot papers. In the eastern region, for instance, in Upper Manya Krobo, Gilo Krobo, Kwahu South, Brim Central, Asene Manso, Akroso, and several areas across the country, by 10:30 a.m., ballot papers have not arrived. But if you understand this electoral system very well, from printing to distribution of the ballot papers, on election day, the key thing, arrival, because it is the arrival that is going to determine when the setup will be done. And after the setup has been done, then it determines when voting will be done. Before voting will lead to counting and collation and announcement. So if arrival is late, it's a rate determining step. It means that all the other things I've said, setup, voting, counting, and collation and announcement are going to be delayed. And when the delays occur, that is when you begin to see stealing taking taking place. But here again, I tell you, people are very, very vigilant. People are in no mood. I'm giving you a lead. Follow up in Suhum. What happened? I don't know whether it's come to your attention. And the subsequent arrest of a EC official that is alleged to have been trying to compromise the process. People are very, very alert. When I say it was terrible, these are the things that we are talking about. But the question is, which companies are printing these ballot papers? We need to know the companies that are printing the ballot papers. And we need to know the contracts that were issued. Because 2024 is not going to be business as usual. We will have to sit with these companies, review their performances, together as critical stakeholders, and ensure that this is not repeated. And I believe they are not the only security printing companies in Ghana. So if they lack capacity, and lack of capacity can also be determined. If they lack capacity, other options would have to be looked at. The EC subsequently issued a press statement basically to demonstrate apology and everything. But what is that for? When the issues that I have raised, printing, avoidable mistake, arrival, avoidable mistake. And this is why the EC is giving people the opportunity to infer that maybe they did some of these things to allow the MPP to consider how the trend has gone so far. And the trend has been terribly bad for them. Terrible. When I say it's been terrible, I mean it. I'll give you an example. Look at a constituency in the western region, like Esikado, Ketam, Honorable Jogatis, a constituency, where NDC has never won since 1992. The information I received, and as I said, the processes are non-partisan, but the people who are contesting are affiliated to political parties. They are saying that people who are affiliated to political parties, who have contested over the years, previously, NDC people were 4 who won, and MPP had 8. But yesterday, 9 NDC people won, and only 3 MPP people won. The process is non-partisan, but the people who contested are affiliated to political parties or they are members of political parties. So in Esikado Ketam, it's a landslide for the NDC people who contested. I'll take you to AAK, Abra Asebu Kwamankese, where Honorable Kwachi Ofusu is contesting, my competent and venerable former deputy minister. Out of 18 electoral areas, out of 25 electoral areas, NDC people who are contested won 18, hoping, and 6 are to be done today. And they are saying all those 6, there's every strong indication that NDC is going to win. I'll give you a last example. A last but one, if you permit me. We all know Okre. Okre is where the local government minister is from. He's the MP for that area. NDC has moved from 4 out of 21 to 12 out of 21. That is the NDC people who contested. The NDC people who were holding the positions were 4 out of the 21. Yesterday, they have moved from 4 to 12. 8 more added. This means that more than 50% in the local government minister's constituency, Honorable Dambotre, as experienced as he is, has come to NDC-oriented people. I'll give you a last example from the Volta region. We all know what happened. The injustice that occurred for the MPP to win the Hohoi seat. And you remember how our national chairman, Venerable Johnson Asidun Tetia, went to Hohoi, climbed some mountains, and even promised them some communication centers. But he actually installed a communication center there. And he told them that when we win power, the place will become an electoral area. Interestingly, this is where Honorable Ipita Mewu's mother comes from. NDC won. Go to Ahafo, several places. NDC has swept 73.4% as of now. Out of 169, NDC has 124. MPP has only 43. This is the state of affairs. And it tells you the wind of change that is blowing. This wind of change is sweeping the MPP away. And this is even an election that is non-partisan by the processes. Let us wait as we enter 2024 when the actual partisan processes begin. But we will say that as terrible as the EC's performance has been, we are preparing for good weather and for bad weather. And that is why we will ask all our supporters to give us the maximum cooperation, because some of the strategies that we put in place, can you imagine if we came to sit on air and be talking about them?
Ghana's gold.
Which strategist advertises his strategies on air? So a lot of work is ongoing. And we will also ask for people, dedicated people, committed people, loyal people, to volunteer to work on the elections and also to work on election day. We need committed, competent, and loyal people. If you ask me how many, we need 160,000. And by February next year, that step to complete the selection of these 160,000 people would have been completed. And so when you hear the call, harden not your heart. Make yourself available to serve, to help the NDC come back to power, to salvage our country, to build a better Ghana, to build the Ghana we want, a Ghana that will be having a 24-hour economy, generating jobs, a Ghana that we will no longer have a needless and obnoxious teacher licensure exams. We are not saying teachers should not be licensed. I'm a medical doctor. We take pride in the fact that we are licensed. Because when you are licensed, it distinguishes you. Even when you move out of the country, you can present your license. So it is good for teachers to be licensed. But who says teachers must write another exams after they have passed their final exams? Doctors, we don't write another exams after we pass our final exams before we are licensed. Unless you were not trained in Ghana. Lawyers also don't write another exams after their final exams. It is your final exam that determines your professionalism, your competence, and everything. And that is what President Mahama has been saying, that he will cancel the obnoxious teacher licensure exam and ensure that the final exam that the teachers write is what will determine the licenses that they will be receiving.
But all these are issues that go to the package that the NDC will be offering to the voter. But you do know how delayed elections can perhaps frustrate the voter, because yesterday was not a holiday. So perhaps somebody had gone to the polling station to queue earlier so that they can vote before they go to work, arrive at work by 9 a.m. If materials arrive late at 10 a.m., of course, the person will be frustrated and will walk out. How do you intend to address this basic? Because you said printing is a basic issue that should have been addressed easily. How do you intend to put pressure on the EC to ensure that this does not happen in 2024?
Thanks very much once again for this question. Fortunately, I am a living example of the youth that worked 24 hours round the clock in 2008 to ensure that printing was done neatly, appropriately, timely, and adequately. It's a whole process. Together with my good brother and friends, Honorable Kudeta Blakwa and Phyllis Kwachi, being supervised by Uncle Dana Budaki, we constituted a team. Aboni was part of that team. And we had men who were also ready and willing to support us. This included medical students that we recruited. Dr. David Sunu was one of them. People slept in the printing houses for night shifts. We made sure the plates that were used for the printing were destroyed after printing. Bagging was done based on number of people in polling stations and in regions. Transfers were policed from Accra to the regions and handed over to the regions to take over. All these will be resurrected and improved. Fortunately, there are living witnesses who will definitely leverage the strength and energy of the young ones of today also to ensure that this is done. This is where the EC, I say, has a lot of boxes to tick ahead of the 2024 elections. The EC, we will sit down with the EC as stakeholders and put forward our concrete proposals and ensure compliance. Some of these issues, there can be no compromise because the integrity of an election cannot be compromised. For instance, issue of indelible ink has come up. These are issues that we will definitely engage the EC on. What are they saying? What do they mean exactly by we will not use indelible ink? If you don't want to use indelible ink, it is because you are placing your faith 100% in biometric technology. Is that not it?
Yes.
If you are placing your faith 100% in biometric technology, then there are preconditions that you have to satisfy. If you don't satisfy all these preconditions, it will be obvious to you that you cannot place your faith 100% in biometric technology. And I'll give you some of the examples of the preconditions. Some of the examples of the preconditions include that there should be no duplicates in the register. Because if there are duplicates and the person is verified at one place in a particular district, Once there's no ink on that person's finger, if the person moves to a different district, if the person's name is in that register, the person can go and vote. You know why? This is because preloading of the biometric verification devices is not done using the entire National Voters Register. It is only the district register that is preloaded onto the BVD machine. So the BVD machine operating at the polling station only knows the people who have registered in that district. It doesn't know people who registered in time and moved to, let's say, Kumasi to go and vote. So the EC would have to satisfy that there is zero duplicates. The EC would have to satisfy that all BVD machines are interconnected. If they say they are interconnected, the EC would have to convince us, even when it came to limited registration, happening in less than 300 centers. Look at the network problems that we faced. So how do you say no indelible ink when the BVD machines are not interconnected, when the BVD machines are not preloaded with the entire national register, when you can't guarantee zero DI duplication? There are several preconditions. And so the issue has just been thrown out. It is not before us. We will ensure that wisdom, knowledge, common sense come to the fore as we discuss these matters.
But they could just say that they did it in the district assembly elections.
The name, you know, the district assembly election that they themselves have come to apologize. It's not a standard for anybody to follow. So let's jettison this district assembly elections. The only good news about the district assembly election is that NDC people have won, have swept it massively, including the local government minister's own constituency.
There have been issues of alleged monetization. Voters being whipped in line to vote one way or the other depending on their political party preferences instead of choosing somebody who they believe can represent them effectively. There have even been security issues, including gunshots, among others. MPs who are seen actually trying to enforce their will at polling stations. Shouldn't we be worried that you from the parties are all of a sudden interested in the outcomes of these assembly elections to this extent, that we are seeing some of the things that we normally see with our national elections, with local government elections, which are supposed to be about who represents me best at the local level?
You should be asking yourself, who are the protagonists? For instance, in Abofu, I had a report yesterday about the gunshot issues that were ongoing. We made certain interventions. And thanks to the police, I'll give a credit to them. They moved in and ensured that calm was restored. The final outcome will be determined today. Who are the protagonists? It is the MPP. It is the MPP. But you see...
But the MPP are also in there because they suspect that you are in there. So they are not fighting. It's not about the local government elections. NDC, they are fighting you.
NDC, every indication has proven that we've allowed the processes to be non-partisan. How many times did you hear us even talk about the assembly elections in the detail that I'm going? I'm sure there were some of our members who thought maybe we're not following. But this is where they should cooperate with us when we are implementing strategy. We don't discuss our strategies on air. The processes has been devoid of NDC. As I have emphasized, NDC people contested, no two ways about it. And again, the same way that we address Ascent North security issues. You remember when Honorable Sam George, myself, Honorable Standogwe, Honorable Joyce Bauer, in the bush on our way from Asingangan, we met the military together with about 2 land cruisers and some policemen, the military wielding guns. The way we went about it, we will use superior tactics. It is not for us to discuss these things. And the MPP should forget that they are going to use violence in 2024 to win the elections. That is not going to happen. They will not have their way. We are a peace-loving party,
Radio Gold.
but we will not sit down to be cheated. They killed 1, they killed 2, they killed 3, they killed 4, they killed 5, they killed 6, they killed 7, and they killed 8 in 2020. Not a drop of NDC blood will be shed in 2024. Mark my words. And we will win the election. Change is coming in 2024. The MPP should not dare us.
Ghana's Gold.
Well,
Radio
Doc,
Gold.
thank you very much for speaking to us this morning.
You are very welcome.
And I, one of the people I'd like to speak to in the early part of 2024 will be yourself. So I'll be in touch. We'll arrange it
No
for
worries.
you to come in
Anytime.
today. It's been a long time since you've been here.
Anytime.
Yes.
Anytime.
Thank you. Thank you, Doc.
Thanks very much. And greetings once again to your cherished and discerning listeners.
Dr. Edward Omane Boamah is Director of Elections of the National Democratic Congress speaking to us. Well, a few things to